Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of Once Upon a Time with Rinpoche. And today we're going to be talking about Rinpoche and his love for animals. As per usual, I will be looking to see who's on first. Excuse me. Okay, I'm online. Good. And no one's on. Okay, never mind. Basically, this topic is quite a huge one, in the sense that naturally Rinpoche has being who Rinpoche is. He loves animals. He loves all sorts of animals, and so there's actually quite a lot to cover. I will put it very simply about his. We can begin with his pets. Long time ago, when Rinpoche was young, he loved dogs, and he had two pet dogs, Princey and Hunter. Hunter. I don't know how to pronounce it. Halter, yeah. And so it's been Rinpoche's. He was. It was his childhood pet dog. He's his companion, his friend, his childhood friend. So it had a huge impact on Rinpoche when he was very young. All right. So, and also Rinpoche had loved animals, and he worked in a pet store for a while. So naturally, one of the things for lamas, especially when they reincarnate, one of the signs of a lama when they reincarnate is that they naturally develop empathy and compassion for animals. Naturally. Yes, I know you're saying, oh, but almost kids do. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Some kids are really nasty to animals. They throw stones, they try to kill them, skin them, and all that. And but Rinpoche, and usually incarnate lamas, a sign of it will be that they have compassion for animals. All right. So I just wanted to clarify that and see who's on. Oh, okay, at least for some people. Hi, good evening, Jerry, Ngai Hin. I don't. Andre, thank you for joining. You seem to be a regular these days. Jillian and Sarang Galui and I think that's Jeffrey. Yin Peng. Good evening. So today we're talking about Rinpoche's love for animals. So naturally, a byproduct of compassion, developing compassion for all beings, would be, would include not just compassion towards people, also include compassion for animals, especially for animals, because the Buddha was known to be compassion to all beings as well, and to animals and so forth, and especially those who were the underdog, those who were the downtrodden. I remember reading in the Lamrim, he particularly loved them. All right, so does a Rinpoche, so does a High Lama. All right, so in Rinpoche's case, he developed it as per normal from a very, very young age. And I just want, so that's the thing about Rinpoche. So it's something that began very, very young and continued all throughout his life. And it'll later on, it'll be quite interesting to note that Rinpoche, despite all the work that he got himself into with regards to the organization, with his mission, with his students, and with his Dharma work of teaching and all that, he still found some time to care for animals. All right, so that's one of the things that was hallmark of Rinpoche. Okay, thank you for hi Marcus. You saw a video on Rinpoche's blog of him scaring me. That's interesting. Okay, blessed before the villain goes away. Okay, I guess that's a little from a little auspicious quote there in Chinese and English. Okay, basically, animals, right? For Rinpoche, animals, I mean, which includes animals under Rinpoche's care, which is Rinpoche's pets. For example, Rinpoche's dogs. I mean, when he was young, he had some pet dogs. Then later on, especially when he came to Malaysia and when he started his work here in Malaysia and developing Kechara, he had schnauzers. He had one. The first one was a schnauzer, a salt and pepper schnauzer. What's his name? Yogi. His name was Yogi, but you probably will not see as much. Rinpoche usually call him by his nickname Mumu. All right, so one of the things about Mumu was that, I mean, all of us have pet dogs. Rinpoche goes to extra length in taking care of his pet dog, in taking care of his pet, in taking of his, I mean, for all pet lovers, their pet dogs are not a pet, so to speak. It's their fur kid. I think they prefer that term, fur kid. They prefer, it's their son. Like Rinpoche refers to Yogi as Mumu, as his baby, as I remember Rinpoche always reminding me that he's always a baby. Never forget it. And one of the things about dogs, about schnauzers in particular, they are highly intelligent, and they're kind of equivalent of a kid, of a 6-year-old or something like that. So they are pretty intelligent. So they're very sensitive to people, to emotions, and to interacting with people in general. So Mumu was very, very well taken care of in the sense that Rinpoche ensured that we all learn up. First of all, Rinpoche did a lot of research. It was not just, I've got a pet dog, and I love him. And some of us, we love our pet like a kid, like a human kid. But in reality, Mumu is not a human kid. He's a schnauzer. So there's a certain way of taking care of a schnauzer that is different from humans, okay? So Rinpoche bought books. Rinpoche read up. Rinpoche introduced his students to that concept when they're taking care of their pets, to learn up about how to care for a pet. Because you see, when we take care of someone, we always kind of take care of it based on what we think they need, but not what they actually need. So in the case of caring for an animal, for a pet, there's particular needs that's very, very different from a human being, from their diet, from the way the exercise they need, from playtime, what playtime means, and how to play, and what they need, to play as a dog. So Rinpoche did a lot of research to find out all these information so that Mumu can be taken care of according to his needs, of him, of what he needs, basically. So that's the thing about how Rinpoche try to foster in his students, especially when we care for animals, when we have pets. Some of us are not really pet lovers. Rinpoche realized that. So, but Rinpoche realized that in caring for a pet, we can develop some sort of care and concern for another being. We begin to do that, especially for younger students of Rinpoche. Like when I first joined Kechara and all that, Rinpoche started on this interesting exercise. I don't know what you call it. It was something that Rinpoche started. He went on a shopping spree and bought us all little aquariums and little betta fishes and little equipment. So in all, there's a number of us in Kechara, and he gave all of us little aquariums and little betta fishes to take care of them. So Rinpoche gave a teaching when he did that. He said that he basically the gist of the teaching was that in caring for an animal, you develop the very foundation of compassion. It's not compassion, but it's almost there, because in the sense that you're caring for another being without expectation of a return. Because what can a fish do? What can a fish do to tell you, oh, thank you? Because most of the time when we care for someone, we have some sort of expectation. Oh, they will say thank you. They will show some sort of gratitude, or sometimes they'll reward us. So that at the back of our mind, sometimes it happens. We do think about that. So, but when caring for an animal, we don't have that thought. Hence, some of us may have a difficulty in relating to an animal and caring for an animal because they will not be able to express the gratitude like a person would. So Rinpoche did that for us, and I remember it was interesting because betta fishes are very hardy fishes, but some of us were not really good at it. And so Rinpoche gave us a teaching on that and caring for animals in developing compassion. And it kind of took off with some of the students, Okay, anyway, let me see. Let's see some. Hello, Milky. Yes, Jeffrey is cute. Hi, Sharon. Marcus says, Marcus Fu. When I first learned about how influential Mumu was to Rinpoche in terms of Rinpoche staying behind to take care of him, which led to Kechara being established, I was amazed. Pets can be incredible. Oh yes, that's a very interesting story in itself. Mumu played a huge role in Rinpoche remaining here, because at that point in time it was a turning point for Rinpoche in the sense of he was going through some problems with the organ, and at earlier days, like you'll read it more if you read Rinpoche's biography, all right. And so Mumu played an important role in which Rinpoche remained and continued on with Kechara. Okay, in the gist. More about Rinpoche's care for animals and love was, especially in regards to Mumu, was he trained quite a lot of us to take care. And Rinpoche always made sure that it's not just him alone. He had a few people taking care. I was one of them in the earlier days. I remember, oh my God, you know what's interesting about Mumu? For a dog, he doesn't like to eat. Can you imagine? Have you ever seen a dog who doesn't like to eat? So Rinpoche's Mumu was exceptional. I remember what I had to do was I had to sing a tune to entertain Mumu so that, to make him feel happy and excited, and then he'll eat his food. There was a time we used to do that. And but one thing Mumu had done, I mean, it was not just, what's interesting about Mumu is that he was exceptionally in tune with people's emotions, more so than the other pets or other dogs that Rinpoche owned. He was very sensitive. He was very in tune. He was so somehow everybody loved him. Everybody loved him. Everybody got in, even including students of Rinpoche that had phobia for dogs. I recall there's one or two students who totally are, they're phobic. They whenever they see a dog, they want to run. They don't want to be near them because it's, past experience, And so what happens was, but when they became reformed when they got in contact with Mumu, because Mumu was so gentle, so nice, so pleasant of a character of a dog that everybody loves him. And it came to a point where that student of Rinpoche was running to hug Mumu every time they wanted to pet, wanted to play with Mumu every time she saw Mumu. It was interesting. So yeah, that was what Rinpoche used to do, and we all have to learn. We have to take care of Mumu. And Rinpoche went on to, Rinpoche didn't just stop at just a few schnauzers. Then later on, Rinpoche started on with fishes, and got us into fishes as well. Rinpoche himself even had an aquarium, a big one in front of his desk, and it was very helpful for Rinpoche at that time, not just in caring for the fishes, but in the aquarium is very pleasant. When you have all the plants and the water and the ornaments and the fishes inside, it's very calming. So it was very helpful for Rinpoche for his long hours in front of the computer working on the blog. So he had the aquarium to to be a sort of a source of relief. And yeah, I remember after the betta fishes, I moved on to goldfishes. Like Rinpoche was into goldfishes at that time, and then for a while, and other types of fishes as well. Then eventually Rinpoche went on to birds. And the thing about Rinpoche was what he did was he did not buy birds from the pet store. He rescued them. So he purposely looked for birds. Some of the times he looked for birds that were neglected, that were too old, that could not be sold. So usually these birds will end up languishing in the back of the cage, and basically in a pet store they don't really take care of the animals that well. So especially those that are not sold, they are there for a long period of time. So eventually they get neglected, and probably, I don't know what happens to them. So Rinpoche would have compassion, and he will notice birds and some of his dogs. Some dogs as well he would buy, and sometimes he can't manage also many dogs, so he will give it to certain students who want to adopt a dog. So he would buy those they're too old to be sold, and so forth. Okay, let me see. I think there's some little comments and questions here from Jeffrey Lim. What can I do for my pets or stray dogs so that they can become attached to the Buddha, so that they will be better and they won't even fall into lower tree rounds again? Okay, this is something interesting, which is also one of the things I wanted to cover. Basically, animals cannot practice the Dharma. That's the nature of their rebirth. Meaning they don't have the intelligence, they will never be able to practice the Dharma, meaning transform, meaning meditate, doing practice, contemplation, reflection, understanding higher thought, having a higher motivation. They cannot practice higher thoughts. They cannot do advanced practices. They cannot do visualization and so forth. But what we can do as pet owners, or as human beings to stray animals, as you mentioned, what we can do is we can recite mantras. So mantras, what are mantras? Mantras are very powerful words that are spoken by holy beings. That according to Rinpoche, he said that the sound that the words make encapsulate the enlightened energy of a particular Buddha. For example, like Manjushri's mantra is Om Arabhajanati. Rinpoche said that the mantra is the enlightened energy of Manjushri. I mean, in this case, like Om Arabhajanati, the mantra of Manjushri. So when you recite it, you're blessing their mind streams. You're planting enlightened energy into their mind. Enlightened seeds, Rinpoche said, it's like a seed. So it's planted in their mind stream, so that in the future, what happens is it will help them to practice the Dharma in the future. All right, it will create the calls for them to practice the Dharma in the future. All right, likewise, I mean, this is not just for animals, actually people as well. But I think most people will not be very receptive when you go around reciting mantras at them. They think you're cursing them. Okay, so you don't do that with people. So what happens is, that's why we have beautiful temples, beautiful altars, a beautiful pendant, a beautiful pendant, a Buddha pendant that is attractive. So when it's blessed, it's consecrated, and it's the pendant is the form of the Buddha. Then when people see, then they can say, oh, so beautiful, they want to know what they want to see. So when they look at it, they will plant blessings in their mind streams as well. That's for people. I mean, it works for animals as well, but animals better with sound, because I don't know. I guess because pets will be easier for them to, it's easier for them to capture the sound than to pay attention and look at your pendant. For people, it'll be visual. For animals, it'll be sound. All right? Okay, but today is not about people now. Today is about animals. Sorry. But anyway, yeah. So we can recite mantras, and you can recite them for them to hear, especially when you're feeding them. All right, when you're feeding your pets, whether it's a fish, whether it's a pet dog, a pet cat, a pet kitten, or whatever animals. I know some friends of mine who has lizards and snakes as pets, but that's very interesting. But anyway, that's all the same. They're animals, so they deserve some sort of blessings as well. So you can recite mantras, or even the food that you offer them, before you offer them, you can recite mantras. What sort of mantras you can recite? There's a lot of mantras, but Rinpoche principally recommends people to recite Medicine Buddha and Manjushri. And I mean, there are more. You can recite Kuan Yin, Om Mani Padme Hum, Kuan Yin. You can recite Vajrapani. You can recite Tara. There's so many, Lama Tsongkhapa, many. But principally, Rinpoche recommends usually is Manjushri and Medicine Buddha. All right. Okay, let me see. Okay, I see some stuff going on here. Okay, Sharon says, for me, I recite mantras out loud around my dogs and blow to them. And sometimes allow them to come sit by my altar to let them see the Buddhas. I also recite mantras and blowing it on their food and treats. Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say as well. And yeah. Okay, and then I'm a regular only in your session. Pastor Nara's prayer request session and weekly swift return puja. Thank you for joining us. Okay, and then Marcus says the Medicine Buddha mantra is very beneficial for animals. Rinpoche has mentioned he always recited Medicine Buddha, Chenrezig, and a Manjushri mantra to animals whenever he sees them. Okay, that reminds me. I wanted to tell my first experience. The first time I heard Manjushri's mantra, I had no idea what it was. I remember I took Rinpoche out for dinner once when I first got to know Rinpoche a long time ago, and then there was a stray dog nearby. As we were walking to the restaurant, and then Rinpoche started reciting a mantra. I was like, what was that? Omara Bazanadi. Yeah, what was that? I asked Rinpoche, and then I can't remember exactly what Rinpoche explained, but it's probably something to do with what I just said. Is to bless them, to plant imprints and into their mind stream and something like that. But I'll never forget, because that was my impression. So Rinpoche, ever since I knew him from the beginning, Rinpoche had been doing things like that already. Whenever he see a stray animal, on rare occasions, you know what Rinpoche did? On rare occasions, I think it's a frog, if I remember correctly. I remember walking with Rinpoche once, going for exercise, and then Rinpoche came across a frog that's dying. Rinpoche recited the mantra and he spit and onto the frog, and it was unusual because Rinpoche did that. And I don't recall what mantra it was. Maybe it was something tantric in nature, but he spit it to bless the frog, the dying frog. I've never seen Rinpoche did that before and ever since. I only saw Rinpoche did it once, and he did that. Okay, Andre says, sorry, I want to ask about Manjushri's mantra. Will it be okay if I use Sanskrit version, Om Ara Pa Cha Na Di, instead of the Tibetan one? I think you can. Perhaps the Tibetans don't pronounce the way I don't know whether you know how the Sanskrit pronunciation. It's pretty similar, I think. Right? What do you think, Pastor? Om Ara Pa Cha Na Di. Is it very different? Is it a Sanskrit version?
It's Om Ara Pacha Na Di.
Pacha. Oh, I see. Yeah. Sure. I didn't know there was that difference, lah. Andre says, did Medicine Buddha need oral transmission? You mean as in to recite the mantra? You don't need an oral transmission to recite the mantra, but if you do receive the oral transmission of the mantra, it would be better for you as the practitioner himself. All right? Because if you're going to do the practice, it will be good for you because you will be tapping into the blessings of the lineage. Okay, Jeffrey, that's the Chinese name one, in case you guys don't know who I'm referring to. Jeffrey is the three Chinese characters. What's medicine Buddha's mantra? Taita Om Bekanse, Maha Bekanse, Raja Samugate Soha. You can Google. Later maybe someone will post it. Yeah. Okay, Sharon says, yes, those are good. I usually recite Medicine Buddha and Dorje Shukden, and my dogs seem to like Medicine Buddha mantra compared to the others. They will wag their tails really madly whenever I recite that mantra. That's cute. Okay, Marcus. Is it Marcus? No, there's someone else. Agnes. Agnes says, my Pomerania, I think that's a breed of dog. Jojo will stay calm when an old monk come to my house for prayer every time. He will stay very still until the ceremony over. Normally, he will be very excited, jump here and there until when seeing visitors. Nice. Oh, he keeps jumping. Okay, Marcus says, I was petting a corgi yesterday on my college campus, but forgot how to blow the mattress onto him because the vet students were surrounding him. Maybe these days it might not be a good idea if you have your mask on and all that, but usually when you do that, it's to consecrate something. When you recite mantra, it would be good to recite it out loud for them to hear. It's good for them to hear and not just to blow onto them. It's for them to hear as well. It will be powerful. That's what Rinpoche used to do. He will recite it quite loud so that they hear it. Yep, so thank you. Oops. Hold on. My screen jumped again and I lost all the... Okay, anyway, where was I? I was... Where is this thing? Finally. Okay, so back to the story. Where was I? I can't remember what I was talking about. I was talking about Mumu. And I'm talking about the pets and the fishes and the birds. And yeah, Rinpoche used to rescue birds that were too old, that nobody wanted in the pet store. He would particularly choose those, even dogs eventually, and then eventually Rinpoche stopped altogether because he realized when people start talking about the puppy mill, how cruel they would treat those who breed dogs. So yeah, that's the thing. Then eventually Rinpoche didn't support that anymore. But before that, Rinpoche supported in the sense that he got those. He would find sponsorship and get the dogs bought and given to students and friends of his who were interested to take care of dogs. He did many of those things. And on top of that, Rinpoche, as we all of us in the Ladrang and those who are close to Rinpoche, who went out with Rinpoche before, would know this. Rinpoche's car will always have dog food. There's always dog food. There's always dog biscuits. There was always packaged milk, and there's always canned food, as in for dogs. And because there's a lot of stray dogs here in the city, so what happens is when we go out, even in this is not a city, this is a little town here in Bentong, but we have stray dogs here. So what happens, what Rinpoche liked to do was when he go out, when he sees an animal that is a dog that is hungry, that looks hungry or skinny, he will always get us to stop the car and go feed it. And of course, when we feed the dog, we recite mantras. Rinpoche will always sometimes Rinpoche will come out and recite along with us and feed the dogs along with us. And that's what Rinpoche would always do. And he enjoyed it tremendously. So there's something that was very, very unique of Rinpoche in the sense that he always did things like that. And then on top of that, there's more things than that. Rinpoche rescued many dogs, as I said before, and birds. And then eventually, you see, how we usually, we usually used to stay in a smaller house where the compound is quite small. So I remember what Rinpoche did was he built a humongous cage, like an aviary in his house, in a suburban neighborhood in Malaysia, which is very unusual. So the whole place is filled up. The whole green area in front is filled up with a cage. Rinpoche put trees, a branch inside, and some. Rinpoche found out about toys because for birds, especially, it's very helpful and therapeutic for them because they need to bite on something. And especially when there's the toys are usually colorful and a little reflective pieces that will attract their attention, and it helps them to de-stress. And Rinpoche made sure that the place was big enough. It's not small little cages. And Rinpoche finds it very, very cruel to put a bird in a small little cage. So he made it very big, his cage. And then later on in KFR, that kind of transplanted into KFR, where Rinpoche had a huge aviary, comparable to a zoo. So the birds have a lot of freedom, a lot of space, a lot of places to hide, play, toys to play, food, and Rinpoche constantly will get people to donate the food that they eat, the millets and the seeds, and there's a millet spray. I remember that Rinpoche, you just tie up onto the tree, and then they will come and they'll bite it and eat it. So they loved it. And that's the extent. And Rinpoche always one of the things is that in the aviary, Rinpoche will always play a mantras, pujas, so that they are constant. And it's not played really, really loud that they can't sleep or they can't rest. It's played at a very soft, audible level, so that they can still hear it, but it doesn't bother them. So it is to plant blessings into their mind streams constantly. And Rinpoche did it also for his dogs as well eventually. So where they sleep, it's played very, very soft, so soft that you can barely hear, but you can hear. That's what Rinpoche did. Yeah, that's what Rinpoche used to do. And on top of that, Rinpoche is always in a campaign. When it comes to animals, Rinpoche has kind of like, because of documentaries like The Earthlings, so Rinpoche had kind of advocates a meatless lifestyle, or vegetarian or vegan lifestyle. But Rinpoche begins with meatless. For me, it was an interesting journey in a sense of how I became meatless. Because at the beginning, what happened was, I watched the documentaries of Rinpoche. It had an effect on me, obviously, because they are very, very powerful documentaries. On what documentaries am I referring to? I'm referring to animal cruelty. I'm talking of videos, secret video captures of slaughterhouses where they slaughter animals for food. And Rinpoche would make me watch it along with him over and over again. And then for a while, I was like, oh my God, I can't eat meat. Yeah, but usually for me, it lasts for like a few days. And then when Rinpoche noticed that I have like this cycle, and then Rinpoche made me watch again. And then finally one day I decided, okay, I have to do something in the sense that I didn't go cold turkey vegetarian immediately. Cold turkey means I didn't stop meat completely, because for me, I know myself, I will eventually cave in. So what I did was, it's like when you want to give up cigarettes, you don't immediately cut like that, because you eventually give up the idea of giving up. Never mind. So what happened was, what I did was I start with like vegetarian, like 3 days a week, 4 days. Initially, alternate days. 1 day vegetarian, 1 day no. 1 day, and then longer and longer, and then 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and then 6 days. Like 1 week, I'll be meat. I'll only go back to meat like once a week. And I finally decided, okay, enough is enough. I have to really, really move on, because that's the whole point of it, right? Isn't it? So I stopped, and it was not easy, but from since then, um, I've been more or less meatless. I say more or less because sometimes when you go out and order, they usually put in the food by accident anyway. But I consciously avoid. All right. Yeah. So what I wanted to tell you is that Rinpoche advocated that as an extension of his care and love for animals. Because basically, if you watch the documentaries, especially on documentaries like the Earthlings, okay, it tells you the entirety of how people exploit animals, from food, clothing, all the way to entertainment, like animals in the zoo, and how they treat them. You will find that after you watch the whole documentary, you'll be in a state of shock. Okay, it's really shocking, because the extent of how animals are treated. And of course, there are detractors of these kind of videos. Some people I've heard before, but that doesn't matter. It is still the truth, in a sense that animals do suffer. Animals do get slaughtered. And so Rinpoche constantly would talk about it. That was one of the things that Rinpoche tirelessly never give up in educating people. Rinpoche doesn't force it down people's throat. Rinpoche does not tell you must be vegetarian. He never asked me, oh, you have to be vegetarian. He did. He just asked me to watch a video with him. So one video led to another, to another, to another. So when you watch it, it was very painful. Initially, it was very difficult. Then after you watch a few, right, it's very painful. It's very hard to stomach. And then because you realize, and then the next time when I went out to eat meat, especially for me, I used to be a sashimi lover. Sashimi is raw Japanese fish, salmon. And when I look at the fish, I think of the video. I think of how the animals were slaughtered, and I just felt I couldn't eat it. So that's how it started for me. And Rinpoche would go on this constantly on his blog. Rinpoche had countless articles, videos. It is a campaign that Rinpoche on his own has been doing all this while when he was alive, as a means of educating people, to make people realize that whatever they put in their mouth, or whatever, even the leather that they wear, comes from an animal who was alive and he was slaughtered. And the pain it must have felt that you had been a cause of, in a sense. So it's really a matter of education. That's what Rinpoche believe in very much. So that's why Rinpoche would go on and on about it, and educate people, his students, his friends, people on the blog, on social media. Rinpoche used to tweet a lot about this. Okay, let me see. Oh yes, Sharon. Rinpoche used to give gifts to students' pets. Yes, Rinpoche believed that. You see, Rinpoche will look at pets for what they need. So most of the time, owners do take care of the pets pretty well, but they don't realize that the pets have their own other needs, like they need toys, they need entertainment, just like people, just like kids, like human kids. They're not as sophisticated as an adult human, but they are sophisticated as like a human kid. So they need toys to stimulate them to play, and Rinpoche would buy it for his kids, for his fur kids, for Mumu. And later Rinpoche got Dharma and Ose, 3 of them. And they have, oh my gosh, you have no idea how much Rinpoche would go to play, to educate them, to train them up. Rinpoche would have toys, of course, normal dog toys, the things that they bite and all that. Then eventually Rinpoche got, what do you call those play tunnels, those little balls, like in a play pen kind of thing. And then to make a maze for them. And then what Rinpoche did was Rinpoche would throw in treats, hide it in certain places in this playpen, and then get them to go in, and they'd be really excited, and they hunt for it because they can smell it, but they don't know where it is, so they have to look for it. And Rinpoche would do things like that. So they get excited. It's fun. It is is food. Is for a dog. It's yeah. And also Rinpoche, one of the things Rinpoche used to do was to always recite mantras, and bless the treats. Rinpoche would recite mantras and when they're eating, so that the idea was, Rinpoche explained to me once, was that they will associate the food with the mantra. So once that kind of association is in their head, so the moment when they die and you recite the mantra, they will think of food. And for dogs, I know it sounds base and low, but for dogs, it's something happy. It's a happy trigger. So when the mantra they hear is a happy trigger, it will trigger a good karma for them to take a good rebirth. That's what Rinpoche is hoping for his dogs. And of course, what else? Rinpoche did a lot. I mean, he even got his mumus to go swimming, especially when they're older and they had problems with their joints. For dogs, it's a common problem for dogs. So what happened was Rinpoche had a little children's pool, inflatable pool. I remember one of the things before Rinpoche passed away was he was asking me to look for a good one, a pool, an inflatable pool, so that they can swim in it. Yeah, so that's what Rinpoche used to do, very much so, with regards to Mumu. One of the things I wanted to bring up, besides Rinpoche's care for animals, is Rinpoche do forewarn his students on many, many occasions. All right, that we have compassion for animals because, they are helpless, they are weak. For some of us, we have compassion for animals, and we have less compassion for people when they're difficult, when they are selfish, when they are problematic. Okay, we have more compassion on animals because they seem helpless, they seem more vulnerable, they seem more kind and genuine to us. But we don't realize one thing Rinpoche said. We don't realize that many of these animals used to be people before. They used to be, perhaps not immediate, some of them not necessarily immediate previous life, but a few lifetimes ago, they were people before, they were human before. That had created the cause to be as an animal. They created a cause to take an animal rebirth. All right, they broke a vow. If they were Buddhists, they broke a vow. If they were people, they were very, very indulgent. They created a cause. They're very indulgent in their senses, in a sense of food, bubbly, as in bubbly, sex. And so because that is one of the causes, this according to Rinpoche. And so what happens is the difficult people that we are encountering right now in our lifetime, right? People around us, I mean, many of them, there's a high chance that many of them will take rebirth as animals. They will probably be a furry, cute little you see some people think, oh, that's a nice way to come back, to be as a pet dog, to be taken care of and don't have to do anything. And what a life. In a lap of luxury, in a lap of whatever, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to think anything because you're a dog. There's nothing to think except food and bubbly. But that's not necessarily a good thing. That's really not a good thing. You do not want to take rebirth as an animal. We should never, especially if you're Buddhist, and if you ever aspire to be a Buddhist, a deeper Buddhist practitioner, or a lumbering practitioner, more so than that, you should never have that aspiration to take rebirth as an animal. All right? Why? Because once you take rebirth as an animal, what happens? It will not be one lifetime, it will be many lifetimes. It will be many lifetimes. The next time you'll be human again, it'll be a long time from now, because the karma is very heavy. And as an animal, we do create, we may not directly create humongous, most of the time, okay, what we think of animals is the pets and the cute stray dog, the cute stray cats. You don't forget the animal kingdom is huge. The animal kingdom is huge. And many of the animals are not cute and furry and gentle and playful and cuddly and like a soft toy. Most animals are wild. Most animals kill each other to survive. Most animals are brutal in order to survive. They have to kill in order to live. Do you want to take rebirth in that situation? You don't. So do not create the causes to take rebirth as that. Do not overindulge in your senses. If you want to practice spirituality, you have to have moderation. So when our senses, when I say senses means what? Senses I'm referring to is food, pleasure, bubbly, that sort of things. All right. So for the suffering of the animal kingdom is a lot. What you see as cuddly and cute and intelligent, the stray dogs and the deers and the birds, and it's just a tiny fragment of the entire animal kingdom. So in other words, if you take rebirth as an animal, it will be most likely not in the cute and cuddly and cute part of the animal. It will be the brutal one, like you see on National Geographic. So don't have this misconception that, you take animal rebirth, it will be good. It will never be. And it's the worst aspiration as a Dharma practitioner. All right? And that's one. Number two is that once you take rebirth in that, there's no way you can practice the Dharma. The next time you're able to practice the Dharma will be when you take rebirth as a human again. Right? Because you will not have the intelligence and mental faculty. We're not talking about the parrot who parrots a person reciting Om Mani Padme Hum. Parroting Om Mani Padme Hum does not mean you're practicing the Dharma. It's not. Just to clarify, all right? Okay, let me see what you guys have to say here. Andre says, when I take a day as vegetarian, basically I'm fasting for 24 hours because vegetables and vegetable dishes is expensive in my area, more expensive than eggs. Laugh out loud. More expensive than eggs. Okay. Interesting. I remember, okay, for Andre, I don't know about where you are. In Malaysia, we have a lot of dishes that are like noodle based. You just ask, maybe vegetarian, pure vegetarian, as in totally no totally no animal products and no dairy and all that will be a bit too much. Because for me, I still take dairy, I still take eggs, I just don't take meat. So there's still quite a lot of options. I mean, there is noodles, there's rice with egg and vegetables, So I think that, I don't know, I can't say, but for me, I still have options, and I've gotten used to it. Okay, Marcus says, I remember Rinpoche in a serious Dharma talk about how high-level Buddhists thinking see the lion, king as not good because the lion always has to kill to survive, even though normal people see him as a majestic beast, which unfortunately causes him to accumulate a lot of negative karma, which is sad. Yes, a lot of animals. I mean, not just the lion. A lot of animals in the animal kingdom have to kill in order to survive, and so it's like creating more and more negative karma. All right. So yeah, that's right. And interestingly, the lion in Buddhist iconography is considered a symbol. Symbol, okay, symbol. It doesn't mean that the lion itself embodies fearlessness. It's a symbol of fearlessness, which is one of the qualities of a Buddha. So for us, we have a lot of fears because we are, firstly, we have an ego. We have not gotten rid of ego. We have a wrong concept of ego. So we're always protecting our ego. So we have a lot of fears. We have a lot of fears also because there's a lot of uncertainty in our lives. And we have a lot of expectations and a lot of needs and desires. So we have a lot of fear. But an enlightened being will have none of these fears. Okay, they do have fear. Enlightened beings do have fear, but their fear is not motivated by the self. Because like for us, we of all our needs and wants and all that. For enlightened being, their fear is more of the fear of the suffering of others. Okay, so it's very different. Okay, anyway, I've kind of digressed a bit. Okay, you've asked a very interesting question, Agnes. Agnes Ui, thank you for asking it. Since animals cannot practice Dharma, in what way they can take rebirth in human realm? Okay, basically it's like this. Everything runs on karma. In like all of existence, all beings run on karma. Karma means what? Actions. Okay, your actions has a repercussion. I just keep it a very simple explanation. Okay, so for us to take rebirth, there's a certain type of karma we've generated before. All right, so once the karma for us to take rebirth as an animal exhausts, it will be exhausted. Once you have experienced it, it will be exhausted. Okay, once it's exhausted, then another karma will take its place. So that another karma could be once the negative karma has been exhausted, it will be usually a good karma that will arise. Like for example, taking rebirth as a human again. All right, but usually when that happens, it'll be a long time. That's why it's not just one lifetime of being an animal. It'll be multiple. I remember Rinpoche said once before. It's not a one-time thing. Don't think it's going to be you're going to take rebirth once and that's it. It's like a holiday in an animal kingdom. It's not going to be a holiday in an animal kingdom. It's not an African safari tour. It's not one day's African safari tour. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of lifetimes because the karma is heavy. And more so if you happen to take rebirth, which most likely will happen in an animal that kills to survive. Then you create more and more negative karma. It perpetuates more and more. So it will be a long time. It's going to be a long time. You do not no it's not as pleasant as we imagine it to be, because we always romanticize being an animal as a pet, as Rinpoche's dog or Mumu. When we read about Mumu, we think, oh, how nice. I heard so many times some of Rinpoche's friends and students do think like that, because unfortunately, and Rinpoche would have to correct them, they think that, oh, how nice to be Mumu's pet, I mean, sorry, not Mumu's pet, to be a Rinpoche's pet, to be Rinpoche's, Mumu. Yeah, so nice, don't have to do work, don't have to think, and I get fed, I get snacks, I get, a very kind owner who takes care of me, and and I don't have any worries. But it's not nice. Don't think you have that kind of good karma. The chance of that is very, very tiny and small. All right, so don't bet on it. Better to come back as a practitioner, as a human being. And another thing that I would like to bring up, which is not exactly related to this, but since we're talking about it, about karma and all, is that as a Dharma practitioner, we shouldn't fear suffering. We shouldn't fear obstacles and problems and difficulties. In fact, we should revel in it. We should be glad. Be glad it's happening to us now. If you're experiencing something negative, as a Dharma practitioner, a senior Dharma practitioner would think like that you're experiencing the problem now and it's not going to happen in the future lifetime. If you have very little problems and difficulties in your life, according to the Dharma, it's a bit scary, because you know why? Your good karma is being exhausted. When you experience pleasantness, when you experience a life of ease and luxury, you're using your good karma. You are actually using your good karma, your store of good karma. So what happens is when you finish your store of good karma, by the end of the life, because it takes a lot, when you experience good things, pleasant things, enjoyable things, what happens when you finish it? You only have negative karma. So your next life will not be as pleasant. So remember that, hence we always have to replenish our good store of karma, preferably with merits, preferably with the Dharma. All right? So Agnes says, so to help our pets, we must let them listen to lots of memory. Yes, when you do prayers, you can always make offerings to them. One of the things I wanted to say was, there's another thing that Rinpoche would do as well. He likes to bring his dogs to circumambulate around stupas and statues. And even in the play area, Rinpoche sometimes would like to elevate a Buddha statue and get the dogs to play around it, to run around it. And the reason is so that they collect merit because of by the power of the object, which is a stupa or a Buddha image or something like that, right? This is an additional method. You don't have to do it, but if you can, it will be good. It is to bless them, an additional way to bless them as much and as many ways as possible, to plant as many seeds as possible, so that eventually, because it is so filled with blessings, that there's a high chance it will take a good rebirth and the Dharma will sprout in the next life. All right? Yes, and listening to the mantras is one of the more common ways. Okay? So if you have any questions more about this, for Rinpoche, it's never been. I've seen from the beginning all the way. As I told you, when I first met Rinpoche, he already was thinking on the level of helping benefiting animals, like reciting mantras to a stray dog, all the way, to rescuing animals, pets, dogs, feeding dogs on the street, carrying pet food all the time wherever he went. Blessing them, reciting mantras. There's even a little picture of Rinpoche, even an earthworm, that is crawling into concrete. He would pick them up with his hands and then put them into the soil. Rinpoche is always doing things like that. It's not just with people, it's also with animals. And for Rinpoche, it's always been, he's tireless. I always see Rinpoche working on, besides the Dharma, he's working on blog articles to educate people about what goes on in the slaughterhouses and how we are contributing to it, and so that people are aware. So Rinpoche does not believe in fighting this meat and vegetarian war by saying, oh, you have to be vegetarian on virtue of karma. He never talked about karma. He always talked about how let people see what animals are experiencing when they're slaughtered. So that's how Rinpoche did his work. And that's an extension of his care and love for animals. He's just always, it's not something that is just because he feels like it or he saw someone do it and he's just following along. No, it all came from him, And he's always doing it. That's the thing about Rinpoche. I've seen, as far as I know Rinpoche, all the way till the end, Rinpoche is always doing things like that, feeding animals, educating people about animal cruelty, always blessing animals with mantras, always reciting, and always constantly playing with his dogs. Not constantly playing, but as in finding ways to entertain them, to make sure they're all right, to take care of them, always. And someone mentioned as a last thing before I end the session, someone mentioned about when the pet has passed away, to recite mantras. What Rinpoche did was exactly like how Rinpoche did with a person, which is to place something holy into his mouth, which is a blessed water or money pill, and then place something holy on the forehead to trigger a good rebirth. Why does this trigger the good rebirth? Is because the mind can leave the body on the upper part of the body or the lower part of the body. There's places where you can exit lah. So what happened is when you place it on especially the crown of the head. The crown is the top of their head, you know. So an animal, a pet dog, will be the similar location, you know, where the ears are, the floppy ears for a dog. So depending on the animal, but it'll be mostly the same. So you place it there to trigger them to leave. When Mumu passed away, immediately Rinpoche arranged for that to be done, and Rinpoche did a Dorje Shukden Puja immediately. A full Dorje Shukden Puja. And for us, it'll be an equivalent would be the Diamond Path. The Diamond Path is what Rinpoche did after Mumu passed away. All right. So for the wake, 49 days. Mumu was not there for, I can't remember the period of time. Now we have to look at the article. There was a wake for Mumu. Can you imagine there was a wake for Mumu? I don't know of any other dogs, pet dog who had a wake. And you know what? It was filled with flowers from students, from friends who generally came to pay respects to Mumu. Seriously, I mean, because they've come and visit Rinpoche and they played with Mumu, it left them with an impact that when they heard of Mumu had passed away, they actually come and pay respects to Mumu. I remember, and yeah, there was a wake for Mumu, and there's a lot of people who came, and generally, and they came for the pujas. Rinpoche had us doing pujas for Mumu, and generally, I mean, it's the same lah. You know, for a dog, for an animal or a human, we have 49 days. Okay, 49 days after death. There are 49 days. Is what is known as the Bardo, or the intermediate state. So 49 days is equivalent to 7 weeks. Okay, 777. Okay, each week it's believed that in the Bardo, in the intermediate state, the deceased, whether it's a human or an animal, will experience another death. So during that 7th day, is usually recommended to do a puja to assist, to help the deceased go through that period, because it's very traumatic for the person, because they don't have a body, so the experience is totally different. All right, so pujas can be done. For people, they do it all throughout. Like for my mother, I did it all throughout, as in every 7 days Dorje Shukden pujas. Some people, they do Lama. Usually the pujas for people is Lama Chepa and Dorje Shukden. For animals, it could be you can do Lama, you can do the same, or you can do Medicine Buddha as well, which is also very good. All right, so yeah. And of course, Mumu's funeral was conducted by Rinpoche himself, and and as you can see, Rinpoche's because of Mumu's contribution to Kechara, there is a statue near the Vajrayogini area in Kechara Forest. There's a memorial to him to commemorate his contribution, in the sense of, because of Mumu, Rinpoche remained, and because Rinpoche remained, Kechara came about. Came to a point where we have Kechara Forest Retreat. So it is not so much to glamorize a pet, it's more to remember the kindness of even just a dog, right? Okay, let me see some other things that people have wrote. Okay, there's a lot. I can't remember where I stopped already. I remember and serious talk about that. Okay. Thank you very much for your sharing about dairy and eggs, Pastor David. You're welcome. Since animals cannot practice Dharma, in what way they can take rebirth in human? I already answered that. So to help our pets, we must let them listen to lots of mantras, which is good. Marcus says, basically, taking care of their spiritual needs is as important as looking after them in general. What about liberating animals, or is that different? Okay, that's a very good question. Animal liberation. Okay, animal liberation, Rinpoche also has done it before, especially fishes. Animal liberation is to save animals from slaughter specifically. Okay, that's the purpose of animal liberation. To save them from slaughter. Okay, not slave them from slaughter. Save them, meaning that the animals are meant for slaughter. So the fishes are actually meant to be, slaughtered, to be sent to a kitchen, to sent to a restaurant, and all that. All right. So that's the purpose of it. So they so when you do it, what happens? You do it with prayers and dedication for a particular person. It will be a cause for them to live longer, to extend their life. All right, it's a very powerful practice. It's a Buddhist practice. Rinpoche has done it, and he recommends for people in general. But we also have, Rinpoche also say we have to do it in moderation, because we have to do it with common sense, because there are places where we keep adding fishes in, it will crowd the whole environment, the whole pond. Because there are some popular places like in the city, in public ponds and pools and all that. So they do a lot of animal liberation. Eventually, it just makes everything worse. So we have to do it in moderation. So I mean, there's many other ways lah. There's also other animals. For example, someone suggested earthworms that was meant to be fed to birds, to poultry, which is a good idea, So it's slightly different in that sense than saving them and then giving them to have a, it's slightly different, but it's a puja in itself. All right. So we just have to have common sense when we do animal liberation. We just don't do it just because it's recommended practice for us to extend our lives, because there are many other ways of extending our life. Okay, other practices. So it doesn't have to be just animal liberation. Okay, let me see. Where was I? Taking care of special needs is important as looking after them. Yes. Where was Marcus? We can also sponsor a pet bereavement puja that has 3 different packages, and it can help them to take a good rebirth. And it's the biggest one, contains Lama Chepa puja being done as well. Yes, it's a very good one. That puja is very good, Lama Chepa. My Jojo have a funeral conducted by a monk in a temple before being cremated. Very nice, Agnes. Sunreef Sola says, my 4-month-old puppy died last week. I was chanting Da Bei Cho, Medicine Buddha mantra, Uchnishta Vijaya Dharani mantra during his last 2 hours. Until I chanted 3 times of Green Tara mantra, my puppy passed on in front of me. Very nice. Agnes says, and have a puja done by Kechara puja team. Nice. Mr. Lam says, I remember making our way to Tsem Ladrang KL for Mumu's wake. It was really inspiring, and throughout the entire wake, it was a great teaching in itself. Very nice. Yes, exactly. It's amazing how an animal can leave such a huge impact on people in general. All right. So with that thought in mind, I've come to an end. I hope I've kind of presented to you a whole spectrum of Rinpoche's view of animals, his love for animals, how to help them, not just in this life, but also in the next. So it becomes our practice to care for animals. All right. It can become part of our practice. All right. Thank you very much. I'll do dedication now. Janju Sencho Rinpoche, Mange Pana Gyushe, Kyaba Yama Mipayang, Gonen Godo Pawasho, Tony Tonga Rinpoche, Make Pana Gyushe, Kyaba Yama Mipayang, Gonen Godo Pawasho, Dazo Jene Sapa Gewadi, Tanandrua Gunlan Kampada, Jebo Jozo Loson Trapai, Tamping Purido Sao Sho, Kewa Gundo Yana Lamadan, Tremi Joki Pala Long Choching, Sada Langi on Terrachoni, Doji Changi Gopang Yotosho, Gewadi Yododa, Lama Sange Jukuni, Chuachika Malupa, De Sala Basho, Juju Jabo, Sonkaba, Chosonama Pewala, Gekishimachi Wadan, Tuni Malo Shansho, Dada Shagido Sundan, Juash Latin, Gawa Lozon Trapai, Tampa Yunba, Gushi, Nimo Della Centella, Nimiko and Delection, Yasantatu Delepel, Contraso Jingulo, Contraso in Otroso, Contraso Tashi Shop, Jasun Lama Kutso Raptanche, Namkachi Lijo Kipada, Los Antamejo and Sansongi, Drew Monso Tatu Ne Gushi, Gandri Rawe, Koa Shingam, Bendan Dewa Malukan, Chenrezik 1000 Gasoy. Shabi City Badu Dan Guji, Hong Tombing Odrumalupa, Dende Dala Saduso, Kodan Tempa Lojana, gave us such a shook and sell. Thank you. Good night.